Hello, guys. Hold on a second. Let me just fix something on my other, on my phone here so I can go live in another place. Just give me a second. I'm sorry. Okay. Oop. I think I got it. Sometimes I really have my shit together and I do this beforehand, so it doesn't matter. Hello and welcome to Soul Aligned Self Care Wednesday Lives. Woo! Today we're talking about making fear your friend. And I love this one because it's very similar to dealing with anxiety. It's a matter of fact, it's kind of like the same thing almost. Hold on, I'm having trouble with my connection. Okay, sorry about this. I know this is annoying. I hate when other people do this to me. Okay, I'm having trouble with my connection. Both my devices are giving me like these warnings of bad connections. Okay, I love how you can see my fig tree behind me. It looks like I have like a leaf growing out of my head. That's gonna bug the shit out of me. Okay, anyway, let's get started. Making fear your friend. But before I get started, I just want to announce that my signature program, Aligned and Worthy Bootcamp, is open. And this is a deep level self care bootcamp. And what this does, essentially, there's 11 lessons in there teaching you deep level self care, all these different practices that you can use. And it teaches you how to start putting yourself first. It teaches you that this is a natural way of living. And it also teaches you to create the stage for you to step into your power, to step into your life as the best version of yourself. So it's not just about self-care, it's also about stepping into your success without the stress, the overwhelm, and the anxiety, right? So it's being able to show up and feel comfortable in your own skin and put your best self into the world and have success with that, but without the stress and overwhelm and anxiety. I love it. I'm very passionate about it. It's open for this whole week until the 24th, and then the price goes up. So I'm not closing the program. You could still purchase it, but the price is going to go up a little bit because throughout this year, I'm adding 5 new master classes to enhance the program. After I do that, I'm probably not going to add much more to it for now, just because it might be too much information and too overwhelming. But there is live group coaching calls and Q&A sessions in our private Facebook group. So you do get the one-on-one, it's not really one-on-one, but group coaching with me. You have the ability to ask me a question at any time, okay? And so that's what's nice about the program. It's completely online and self-led, but you have the option to get the support and get your questions answers every single month, okay? And so I haven't raised the price since I added the coaching to it, the live coaching. And so now I'm doing that, but I'm doing it incrementally throughout the year. I don't want like this big jump in the price because I'm providing this coaching. I'm going to just kind of ease into it a little bit because I know from my perspective, when I buy things from other people, that I hate when people do this. It makes me feel like sometimes it's out of grasp. I'm like, I'm constantly grasping for it. And then I'm like, ooh, you know? So I want to make it very available to you, but at the same time, I put a lot of work into it, and I put a lot of time into it. It's a very powerful, transformative program, and so that's open this week. I'll put a link below. I'm not going to talk about it much longer because I don't want to bore you, but this week's live question Q&A and coaching session is about food as your healer. That is one of the lessons, teaching you about how to use food as your healer and to fuel your body healthfully and so that you feel good and you have energy. That's very deep level self-care. And so today I'm doing a live on a reset for your pantry and your kitchen, okay? And it's a lot of fun, and that's inside of the program too, all the instructions and stuff. But I'm doing it live today in the group. So if you want to see that, you guys can join today, but the recordings always stay up, so you could always go back and look at it. Okay, moving forward with fear as your friend. So Um, this is definitely something that we've all heard. Like, I struggled with the title to this blog post because I'm like, oh, like we've talked about this to death. But I think I have a little bit of a different perspective than other people have. Like, some people are like, get rid of the fear, become brave, or whatever there is to it. But the truth is that fear never goes away. It doesn't matter who you are. The most successful person on earth still has fear. They just have a way of dealing with it and moving through it. So, what I mean by making fear your friend is fear is our friend. Fear is basically trying to protect us. It's like that helicopter parent that hangs over you and is like, ooh, don't do that. That might make you uncomfortable or that might be dangerous. And the problem is that if we let fear rule, then we stay frozen in place and we don't really live our lives. So fear is not bad. It is our best friend. It protects us from dangers, but it also shows us it shows us the places where we need to expand. So if you think about the thing that you're afraid to do most, that's probably what you need to do. Like in order to expand, in order to grow, in order to be successful. Oh my God, I just realized I didn't put my dogs away. So if they start barking, I apologize. I'm just a little bit of a shit show this morning. All right, so it's about using that energy of fear. So a lot of times when I feel like fear, it's either true fear where there's a mountain lion behind that tree and it's going to kill me, or it's made up fear, which is if I get on that stage and speak in front of 100 people, I'm going to embarrass myself. Everyone's going to talk about me. It's going to go really poorly. Everyone's going to judge me. Those are all made up fears to try to protect yourself. But really, what it's doing is holding you back because we all know if we step onto that stage and we freaking ace it, it's going to propel us forward. So fear protects us, but at the same time, it helps propel us forward. It's just a matter of how you take that energy that you receive from the fear, and if you let it hold you back and freeze you, or if you're just like, oh, I'm excited, right? That's what this is. I'm excited. This is excitement like brewing inside of me. And if you could look at it as excitement, because if it's not going to kill you, it probably is excitement. You could use that fear to propel you into the future. And so I would say that if we listen to fear every time, and our brain is biased towards the negative, it's biased towards the fear because it's meant to protect us, it's meant to keep us alive on a very basic, like human level. It's not going to take into all the nuances of your life and how this is going to benefit you. It's basically like, I'm going to either keep you alive or you're going to die. And so it's like very black and white. So your brain is just like so negative bias that you have to really work around these things. But if you listen to the fear every single time, you're probably going to just end up like curled up on your, bedroom floor in the fetal position with a weighted blanket over you all the time. And I'm not negating the weighted blanket. I love the weighted blankets, okay? It's like a warm hug from no one. I don't know. I do. I like them. I think they're really cool. So I'm not negating that, but you don't want to stay under the weighted blanket all the time, right? You don't want to do that. So, like I said, we have to think about it as every time I feel fear, that might be something I need to do. That might push me forward. That might take me to the next level. It's going to take me out of my comfort zone, but I will survive. We all know that we will survive. And then when we come out of our comfort zone, we always know that there's amazing things on the other side of that. I've heard so many people say this. When I see successful people or anybody who has any type of success, I'm not even talking about success in their business or monetary success. I'm talking about any type of success, relationship, anything. Like it's always because they are willing to take chances. Always, they're always willing to come out of their comfort zones. And so I've seen this so many times that I believe it to be true. And what I believe to be true is true. So whatever you believe to be true is true also. And so by changing your mindset to fear protects me, to fear is my best friend and it's here to propel me, right? It's here to push me forward. It's here to point out all the places where I need to expand. Okay? You need to change your mindset to that. So if you need to write that out, fear is meant to propel me, not stop me, and it does protect you, right? There are those instances where you're walking down, you're like in a dark parking lot at night and you're by yourself, this is probably just for women, but maybe men feel this sometimes too. And you hear those footsteps, and that's when fear is good. Fear is good. Like you walk faster, you get your weapons out, you whatever you need to do. This is where fear is actually really protecting you. But on a day-to-day basis in our life, it doesn't usually protect us. It holds us back. So use that energy to propel you. Okay, let me just look at my notes. Okay, so how do we make fear our friend? So we take hold of that excitement and use that energy to move us forward. Instead of saying, I'm afraid of doing something, say, I'm excited to do something. It puts you in the position of moving forward. Fear is energy, so use that energy. Okay, so this is about mindset shifts here, right? And then there's a few questions I'm going to give you that you can use. Then to move through your fear, these are the questions, okay? I'm reading from my notes, I'm sorry, because I need notes because I go off track sometimes. Coffee today. I usually have tea, but right now I have coffee. It's decaf, but I was just in the mood for coffee. All right, so when you come across something where you're feeling that fear, right? And that anxious energy inside of you, what you're going to do is you're going to stop that loop. Because what happens is you feel the fear, right? And then in your brain, you start like validating the fear. Like, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that. That's dangerous because if I do that, then this might happen and this might happen. And you're making up stories. And these are stories because they don't exist. You're going into the future and you're making shit up. Right? And then what happens is that loops back into your body and it creates more anxiety and more fear. And then it loops back into your head. So it's like a fear and anxiety loop, right? And so it's going back and forth, back and forth. And before you know it, you're not doing anything exciting anymore. Like you're just staying in your house and fuck it, you give up. Like everything's too scary, right? And so you need to stop that loop, right? And so the first thing you could do is when you feel that fear, you're going to ask yourself a few questions to stop the loop and to bring you back into yourself, right? You're going to ask yourself, what would happen if, I'm sorry, what is the worst thing that would happen if you did this? Now come up with the worst case scenario, okay? Because this is what you're going to do in your head anyway. You're being very specific about it. I'm sorry, I'm getting all these notifications that are blocking my notes. Okay, so what's the worst case? All right, come up with it. Just bring it into the forefront right now and get it over with. And then you're going to ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't do this? Okay, so you might say to yourself, like, let's go back to the speaking on stage thing. What would happen if I didn't do this? Well, I'm not going to bring new opportunities into my life. I'm not going to expand myself. And if I get good at speaking on stage, I might be able to make some money from it. I might be able to help more people. I'll get in touch with more people. I might make some friends that I can collaborate with. It'll make new opportunities available to me. But if I don't do it, none of those things will ever happen, right? And so instead of going into the negative loop, you're going to go into the positive loop. Like, what would happen if I didn't do this? And look at all the things that you'd be missing out on, okay? And then you're going to write, what is the best thing that would happen if I do this, okay? And then you can go back to those things like, oh my God, it'll make me more opportunity available to me. I'll meet more people. I'll help more people. It'll expand my career. It could possibly expand my income. There's so many good things that could happen from this. And so then you're going to go into... I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. I got distracted. I can't even tell you right now how many notifications I'm getting. I hope this recording isn't horrible as far as the quality goes. I know it's a little scattered right now. Okay, so then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to say, what can I do to make this work out in my favor? So you're going to look at your worst case scenario maybe and just be like, how can I make this smoother? How can I make maybe that not happen? So like I guess my worst case scenario in this kind of situation would be that I would bomb, right? So what's the worst thing that would happen if I would bomb? Like maybe, I don't know, I guess you could imagine that people would talk about it and maybe laugh about it, but it's like everybody's worst fear. So I think people would also be very compassionate about it and be kind to you. The people that probably matter would be kind to you. And so, when you really look at it, It's really not so bad. You know, I'd probably survive if I bombed. Okay, I know I would survive. I know I would. When I first started doing these Facebook lives, I was terrible, and I'm not like a professional at it. I just come on and do these, and it's very. I don't make it very professional. I just want it to be real and kind of from my heart, right? But I used to be very stiff, right? But I got used to it and I did it more and more, and now I'm comfortable, right? And so that's what happens when you do these things. So, how can I make this go smoother for myself to give me that confidence so I can practice? I could practice in front of people. I could maybe do it on a smaller stage and do it in front of a smaller crowd, right? And then you could videotape yourself and watch yourself doing it and say, ooh, I shouldn't do that. Or I shouldn't make that face. Or that joke was really bad. Or maybe I should use my hands more, express myself more. Or, you know, change the tone of my voice, right? So you could watch yourself do it. So these are things that you could do to make this workout smoother. It's not going to really change it, but you can make yourself feel better and move forward with that. Right? So those are the questions to use that fear and move you forward, right? So as soon as that fear comes up, to me, it's a signal. It's like, ooh, this is something I should do. This sounds super scary. This is something I can do. And I made a post the other day on social media and I wrote, except for cliff diving, that's a hard no for me. And it is, that's a hard no for me. I don't care. Under the safest circumstances, I would not do it. It doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't sound like fun. I don't think it's going to move me forward. It'll probably just traumatize me for months, okay? And so there's certain things like, well, for sure, we can all agree that you could die if you do cliff diving, right? You can totally die. So I just don't want to do that. So that's when fear is kind of protecting me a little bit. I don't think I'm missing out on anything by not cliff diving. Maybe you might think differently, but that's where you and I can agree to disagree. But the one thing I know for sure is fear never goes away, like I said. Even for the most successful people, there's always fear. So you have the choice to choose you, right? This is what this series is always about. It's about choosing you and putting yourself first so that you can put your best self into the world, right? So choosing you and embracing the energy of that fear, embracing it and using it to propel you forward. Otherwise, it's going to freeze you. You're going to let it freeze you. And if you let it freeze you or you let it suppress you, then it's going to be like that helicopter parent never leaves your life. They're just hovering over you, you know, that noise. And it's just over you and you're just like, you know. So now I want to share a story. So this is a story about when I had my stroke, and you might have heard this story before, but maybe not. It's very specific. So I had my stroke and I didn't really have a lot of damage from it. I had some balance issues, but one of the things that happened was it was a very rare thing that happened to me when there was a tear in the lining of my artery. And so it wasn't like a really common thing. So a lot of the doctors were afraid to like give me the go ahead to do things like run, right? So I was a runner and the neurologists were all like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't. I had one doctor tell me I was a delicate flower and I should treat myself that way and all these things, and it just wasn't my personality. And so for a long time, I don't know how long, months, not that long, I was in a state of fear, right? Because basically they let my artery heal with this big clot in it. So I felt like this ticking time bomb, like anytime this clot could come out and just like kill me. And so it was absolutely like terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. I was terrified and anxious and I was not happy and I wasn't active, and I'm a very active person, so it was really hard for me. And I was just trying to, one day I was at the neurologist's office. I was looking for positive outcomes for other people that dealt with the same thing, and I could not find like it was literally the opposite. Like it was so depressing. Everything I read was so freaking extremely depressing. So I was like, oh, maybe I should stop looking. Like, I don't know. But one day I was at my neurologist's office and I was bored. I was waiting for my appointment and I was reading a neurology magazine, right? And sometimes I wonder about that. Like, why do they have neurology magazines? Like, who wants to read that? Like, where's the, Better Homes and Gardens or whatever? Like, something different. I don't want to read about neurology, but I did because I was bored. And I'm glad I did because there was a story in there about an NFL football player that had a vertebral dissection. Not no, just not a vertebral dissection, a dissection to the artery going to his heart, and I don't remember which one it was, but he almost died. It was devastating. But in the middle of the story, I came to a part that said that he recovered and he went back to play in the NFL. And like right at that point, I closed the magazine. I didn't finish the story because I didn't want to know if there was anything negative that happened. I just went with it, and I decided to start running again. So getting past my fear was a matter of me like asking myself all these questions, like what would happen if I did do this? Well, I might drop dead. What would happen if I don't? Well, I might just be this person who's kind of like sickly and weak, and my poor kids will have to take care of me as I get older, and I'll be depressed and sad. So, like that's like the worst case scenario, right? And what's the best thing that would happen? Well, I'd be running again. I'd be happy. I'd be active. I'd feel good. I'd have energy. I would be capable of taking care of myself. So, like, I went through all these things in my head. And you get to a point too when it comes to this. So like it was a life or death thing. In my mind, it was a life or death thing. And the neurologist didn't know either what would happen if I started running. So that's why they told me not to, because they were just playing it safe, right? They don't know what's going to happen. And so you get to a point where the fear of not doing the fear of not doing it. No, the fear of not running, right, was greater than the fear. No, the fear of not being able to run again. I'm not saying this correctly. Was greater than the fear of like just keeping myself safe, like the fear of being like this person that had to be taken care of, right? So, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. It's a little bit of a brain fuck right now, but anyway, basically my need to run and feel healthy and be active was greater than the fear of death. Okay, I decided that if I couldn't be active, then I really didn't want to be alive, right? And so that was like the tipping point for me. And so I started running, and I did it extremely slowly because I did have balance issues. And so I would go outside and I would look at my block and I would say, okay, I'm going to run until that driveway. And then I would run into that driveway. I went one step at a time. And then I said, okay, I'm going to walk until that tree. And then I would walk until that tree. And then I just kept doing that every time I ran. And I just started running further and further and further. And by December of that year, so I had my stroke in May. By December of that year, I ran my first 5K with my daughter. Kind of a funny story, but not really. I ran it on a team. I raised money it was the Jingle Bell Run in Syracuse, and I raised money for arthritis. And we had a big team, and we raised some good money. We had one of the biggest teams that year. And so I was running with my daughter, and we were at the start line, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, what if I drop dead while I'm running? This is kind of like the first time I'm going to run a 5K, and it'll traumatize my daughter forever. Like, and so the whole race, I just kept saying to myself, don't die, don't drop dead, don't drop dead, don't drop dead. And when I finished, I was like, oh my God, I didn't die. Okay, you know. And then since then, I've run like probably over 15 half marathons, one marathon, and about six Ragnars, which is a 200-mile relay race. And it's a big part of my life, running the races, and I do it with my kids, and I really enjoy it. And so it kind of worked out. It worked out for the best. Now, the best part of this story is the fact that a couple of years after I started running, I had an incident where I was running around my neighborhood, and I felt great. And I was like, oh, I'm going to run 5 miles instead of 3. I feel really good today. And so I came around the corner and I got really dizzy, just like I did the day I had my stroke, right? You know how when you're falling and you're just trying to catch your feet under your body so you don't fall on your face? Well, I did that for a certain number of yards, and I did not fall on my face. I regained my balance, and I was really scared because it felt exactly like the stroke. And so I called a friend and stayed on the phone with them while I walked home, and then I called my neurologist when I got home, and I had to go into the emergency room, and they did an angio, and when they were done with the angio, they woke me up. My doctor, woke me up on the table because he was so excited because he said, Tina, you're not going to believe this. Your artery is open and it's clear, right? It's working, meaning the clot that was in there or whatever. I don't know if the clot came out because I feel like that would have killed me, but somehow it opened up. And he had said to me after this happened, he said, your body finds a way, right? So you have two vertebral arteries and that's why I didn't die. He's like, but your body always finds a way. And so somehow my body found a way to use this artery in a positive way. God knows how. And even the doctor was kind of perplexed by it. But I chalk it up to a little mini miracle. And I'm lucky enough to be alive. And that's why I share this stuff with you. That's why I share everything that I share, is because of these things that happened to me. And so that was a time in my life where I let fear propel me instead of hold me back. And it was a very powerful lesson for me because I learned that even when you're really, really scared, because I was, you could still move forward and survive, right? And can I possibly like drop dead while I'm running now? Possibly, but anybody could, right? So I don't think about it. But anytime I come up against something where I'm really afraid, I always go back to the story in my head and I remind myself that what could be harder than that? And so when you look at it that way, getting up on stage and talking in front of a whole bunch of people doesn't sound really that hard, right? So, let's see what I want to end this with. So the next time you have an opportunity or something that comes up that you're really afraid to do, bring awareness to your thoughts, ask yourself these questions and move through it, right? Move through it. Stop that stress, that anxiety loop where you're like, oh my God, but this might happen. And then in your body, you get scared and your body feels that energy, that alarm, so to speak. And then it goes back to your head and you start making up all these stories of things that haven't happened. And it's just in the future. And, I'm reading this book right now and he calls them rubber snakes. They're fake, just rubber snakes that are scaring you, right? And so remind yourself of that and use the fear to propel you instead of freeze you. Okay. I hope this was helpful. This week as I said, I'm launching Aligned and Worthy. So if you're interested in getting into that program, it's a boot camp. I'm going to put the link. If you're watching this on Facebook, I'll put the link in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, Instagram, they'll be on YouTube, they'll be in the show notes, and on Instagram, they'll also be the link. It will be in the bio. So thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, just reach out, and I'll see you next week with another live. Bye, guys.